Next, we're going to take a look at what may well be my most surprising film of the year. Now, I'll admit that I went into this little love of mine expecting absolutely nothing. After all, here in Australia, we're not exactly the best at making romantic comedies or romantic dramas. Now, some people might argue me on that point, but look, I wasn't even a big fan of the Josh Lawson film that came out earlier this year. I kind of watched those movies and, yeah, I'll sit there and watch it and kind of enjoy it, but at the same time, I don't get that same thrill that I get out of watching so many other different genres of movies. Now, this is a movie called This Little Love of Mine. This film absolutely blew me away and completely surprised me. The film comes from director Christine Luby, who has been like a second unit director for a while on a few movies like Peter Rabbit, Aquaman, and some big blockbusters. So I guess like she does know her way around these kind of movies, around movies, I should say, not these kinds of movies. But this is her debut as a standalone director, and I have to say, as that is the case, she is someone to definitely watch in the future. This is a great romantic drama. It's a movie I think that can be enjoyed by both males and females at the same time. It centers around a character called Laura, played by Saskia Hampeel. Now, she's a lawyer. She's a successful lawyer. She moved away from this beautiful tropical island that she grew up on when she was a kid. She's kind of made her way in the States as a lawyer. Now, she's at the point where she could very well easily become a partner at the law firm that she's at. And her boss kind of tests her by giving her the account of a billionaire, and says to her, if you can land them as a major client, then you're pretty much guaranteed partner. Now, what this billionaire wants is for his grandson, called Chip, played by Liam McIntyre, to sign on to become the next CEO of the business that he has built. Now, it's not fully explained why his son can't take the role, but he wants Chip to take that role as the next CEO for this billion-dollar company. But Chip doesn't want that role. Chip is happy working on the island, working as a tour operator kind of thing, and he can't think of anything worse than being the CEO of a billion-dollar company, because it'll take him away from his charity, which sees him build homes for people that really needs it. Now, Laura has to travel back to the childhood island that she grew up on and meet Chip and try to convince him to sign on to become the next CEO. In doing so, she's reunited with one of her friends from when she grew up, Jem, played by Lynn Gilmartin, who actually works at the resort, and herself is about to receive a promotion if she can pull off this birthday party for the said billionaire as well. So kind of a lot centers around what's going to happen for these two women, going on what's going to happen with their careers. So the film does have a fair bit there to work with. Of course, when you first watch it, you kind of think, is it going to go into that kind of Exit to Eden territory that we saw with the Paul Mercurio film years and years ago? It doesn't. It just keeps this, and this is one of the things I enjoy about this movie. You could almost take kids along to see this film because it's very, very G-rated. There's nothing graphic or anything like that. This is basically a storyline about Laura going back and meeting her friends Chip and Jem, trying to talk Chip into signing this deal to become the next CEO with her own job at risk as well. It's a beautiful story. I'll admit, beautiful, beautiful scenery. It's shot in Queensland. And that brings me to the next bit that I want to talk about. This is an Australian film, but you wouldn't know it watching it. The characters are all American. In fact, I went along and saw this with my co-host Kyle, and we're talking afterwards, and we originally felt before we went into the film that this was going to be about them coming to Australia. That Chip and Jem would be Australian and that Laura would have to come back to Australia. That's not the case. It's never really revealed where the island is, but due to its close proximity to America, because there's one point in the film where Laura talks about going back to America and she'll be there that night, it really feels like this is an American island. So maybe it's just off Hawaii. It could be somewhere like Bermuda or Jamaica that's not all that far from America. It's never really revealed, but you don't also really care. This film is a universal story. It's very, very universal. And as a result, it works. And I feel that this is the kind of movie that's not only going to work here in Australia, but it can also have the potential to work in the UK, the USA, and that's why I am so excited to be able to talk about this film, because I really do think that this film is a film that people should go out there and support. If you're an Australian, go and support this film. Show our industry that you want to get behind them with films like this. Even the actors, they're not known actors. Like, a few people would probably know Liam McIntyre if you watch Spartacus. But outside of that, but the three are absolutely amazing. Like, I sat there watching this film thinking I was watching a movie that had the cast power of a Claudia Carvin or someone like that. Saskia Hampel is fantastic. Lynn Gilmartin has star written all over her. Liam McIntyre kind of settles into that romantic lead role so well. These three are going to go on to absolutely massive things after this film. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. The only weakness to this film is I thought at the start it kind of felt a little bit forced. The scenes with Laura in the law firm felt just a little bit forced, but once they got to the island, this became a whole different film. Of course, you kind of know where the film is going to end up, but there's some great twists and turns in there along the way, which I absolutely adored, that I thought made this film so special. Absolutely fantastic film. This is proof of why I think that COVID has helped the Australian film industry. The fact that films like this are going to get universal release because of the fact that there's very little coming out, to me kind of says that while the rest of the film industry around the world has kind of suffered from COVID, I think the Australian film industry has really had a chance to shine. It's had a chance to showcase its work in cinemas and also in streaming services. It's also become the home to some of the biggest productions in the world at the moment coming here to work. So, look, this is one surprising film for me. This Little Love of Mine, like I said, I didn't expect much going into this movie, and I've come out of it absolutely loving this film. 4 out of 5 for me. A fantastic film. Go along and see it if you haven't already. This is one of those films that you can go along for a date movie and you will both enjoy it. So go along and see This Little Love of Mine. 4 out of 5 from me.